Alright, so now we will be talking about the chemical structure of vitamin D and also the activation of vitamin D by different by different enzymes in our body. So the first precursor molecule for the synthesis of vitamin D is 7-dehydrocholesterol molecule, which is a derivative of the cholesterol molecule. Usually when the cholesterol molecule at carbon number 7 is dehydrogenated, it means that when at carbon number 7 of the cholesterol molecule a hydrogen atom is been removed, then the cholesterol molecule will be converted into 7-dehydrocholesterol molecule, which is usually found in the epidermis and dermis layers of our skin. So when sunlight falls on the dermis and epidermis layers of our skin, then this compound, the 7-dehydrocholesterol molecule, will be converted into cholecalciferol molecule, and it is the structure of the cholecalciferol molecule. The cholecalciferol molecule is a precursor molecule or a provitamin of vitamin D, which is found in animal sources, and in contrast to this, the ergocalciferol is found in plant sources. The only difference between cholecalciferol and ergocalciferol is that the ergocalciferol has an additional methyl group. One methyl group is attached here in the cholecalciferol. There is the structure of cholecalciferol in the ergocalciferol, and additional methyl group is attached along this methyl group. The cholecalciferol is also known as vitamin D3, and it is also known as calciol. Here, calciol. When this cholecalciferol reaches the liver hepatocyte cells, then in the liver hepatocyte cells, a hydroxylation reaction takes place to this compound by this enzyme, that is the calciol 25 hydroxylase, that is found in the liver hepatocytic cells. And by the action of this enzyme, the 25 hydroxylase enzyme, a hydroxyl group is added at carbon number 25 to this compound. The carbon number 25, the position of carbon number 25 is here, that I have mentioned here. So in the cholecalciferol at carbon number 25, an OH group has now been added, and this compound will now be called 25 hydroxy cholecalciferol. That means that it is a cholecalciferol with a hydroxyl group at carbon number 25. The name suggests this. So the 25 hydroxy cholecalciferol, and it is also known as calcidiols. The calcidiols will be now converted in the kidneys in the proximal convoluted tubules of the nephron by the action of another enzyme that is called calcidiol 1 alpha hydroxylase, and it will be converted to another form which is called 1,25 dihydroxy cholecalciferol. Usually what happens that this enzyme, the calcidiol 1 alpha hydroxylase, will add another hydroxyl group at carbon number 1 of this compound, and the position of carbon number 1 is here. I have mentioned it here also. This is the position of carbon number 1, and there also this is the position of carbon number 1. So this enzyme that is present in the proximal convoluted tubules of the nephrons in our kidneys, this 1 alpha hydroxylase calcidiol enzyme will add another hydroxyl group at position number 1, and here is your position number 1 of carbon. So at carbon number 1 another OH group has been added. This was the OH group at 25th carbon, which was added by this enzyme 25 hydroxylase, and now this enzyme, the calcidiol, has been converted to 1,25 dihydroxy cholecalciferol. It means that one hydroxyl group is attached at carbon number 1, another hydroxyl group is being attached at carbon number 25. That's why there are two hydroxyl groups. So it is now called dihydroxy and cholecalciferol. The 1,25 dihydroxy cholecalciferol is also known as calcitrials, and it is the activated form of vitamin D. Here you should know one thing more, that this cholecalciferol is synthesized in our epidermis and dermis layers of our skin by sunlight, usually ultraviolet light, and we can also take this cholecalciferol in our diet from animal sources as well as plant sources. Okay. After this, we will be talking about the regulation of vitamin D, the synthesis, the regulation of the synthesis of vitamin D, and the biological functions that vitamin D perform in our body. Okay, so after studying the molecular structure of vitamin D, now we will discuss the regulation and biological functions of vitamin D. Vitamin D is regulated by this enzyme, that is the alpha 1 hydroxylase present in the proximal convoluted tubules of the nephrons. The major functions of vitamin D is that it restores the calcium and phosphate level in the blood plasma to normal. The normal calcium level in the plasma is 9 to 11 milligrams per deciliter. To maintain such a normal quantity of calcium in the blood plasma, the quantity of vitamin D in our blood plasma is well regulated by this enzyme. It means that this enzyme decides that what quantity of calcitriol, that is the activated form of vitamin D, that what quantity of calcitriol is right now present in your body. So when your body's plasma's calcium level goes down, and also your plasma's potassium phosphate level goes down, then this enzyme is activated. This enzyme is stimulated by low calcium level as well as low phosphate level. How does it works? There are three main organs in our body in which this phenomena occurs. The first organ is our GI system, the second one is our kidneys, and the third one is our bone. When the calcium level goes down, okay, we will discuss it later on. When the phosphate level is goes down in your blood plasma, then the low phosphate level stimulate 1-alpha hydroxylase enzyme to convert more calcidiols into calcitriols. Is that right? And the calcium level, when goes down, it stimulates the parathyroid gland. In the parathyroid gland, parathyroid hormone is released from the cheap cells of parathyroid glands, and this parathyroid hormone PTH, this parathyroid hormone will be increased in the plasma. The level of PTH will be increased in the plasma, and high level of PTH in the plasma will stimulate 1-alpha hydroxylase to convert calcidiols into calcitriols. It means that more calcitriols will be formed. So it means that the phosphate stimulates the alpha 1 1-alpha hydroxylase directly, whereas calcium stimulates the 1-alpha hydroxylase indirectly by the activation of parathyroid gland to release PTH. But how it really works molecularly, at molecular level, when we study about that, how calcitriols helps in the restoration of calcium and potassium level in the blood. So now we will discuss that. Here it is the GI system of your body. This is the intestinal mucosal cell. Of course, I have drawn it on the surface of the stomach, but I have drawn it for our ease. So this is the intestinal mucosal cell. What happens that calcitriol reaches the intestinal mucosal cell. Then this calcitriol, here I have denoted this calcitriol with this red rectangular shape. So this calcitriol is now in the intestinal mucosal cell. Then in this intestinal mucosal cell there is a cytosolic receptor, which means that in the cytoplasm of this specific cell there is a specific receptor. Here is that receptor. So this calcitriol will bind with this receptor. Here it has now been binded with this receptor. Before binding with this receptor was inactive. When the calcitriol is binded with this receptor, the configuration of this receptor has now been changed, and this complex is now called calcitriol receptor complex, CRC. calcitriol receptor complex. Then what happens that this calcitriol receptor complex CRC will be translocated to the nucleus. It will go into the nucleus. In the nucleus, it will express or it will activate certain gene on our DNA. So this red mark is a specific gene which this complex will express. So when this gene is expressed or activated, then this gene will make messenger RNA, and finally this messenger RNA will be translated into a sequence of protein with the help of ribosomes. That specific protein is called calcium binding protein, because that protein helps in the binding of protein to restore binding of calcium to restore the calcium level to normal level, to restore the calcium to the normal level in the blood plasma. This calcium binding protein is also known as calbindin. This same process occurs here also in the kidneys. So in the kidneys, this receptor complex, calcitriol receptor complex will enters into the nucleus of the nephrons, and it will activate genes there also, and messenger RNA will be formed, and finally calbindins will be formed. Then this calbindin in the intestinal mucosal cells, when we eat food containing calcium, this calbindin protein will bind with that calcium and will help in the absorption of calcium from the intestinal mucosal walls. Here in the kidneys, calcium is eliminated in the urine, and also phosphate is eliminating in the urine. So this calbindin will bind with the calcium and will reabsorb it from the distal convoluted tubules of the nephrons. So the elimination of calcium in the urine will be stopped. And in the bones, what happens that this PTH, parathyroid hormone, along with calcitriols, calcitriol, it is the activated form of vitamin D. So vitamin D along with the parathyroid hormone mobilizes calcium from the bone to maintain the normal calcium level in the blood plasma. Here you have to clear one concept very clearly, that in some books you read that vitamin D help in the mineralization of bone. It means that vitamin D helps in the deposition of calcium and phosphate in the bone, while you study at some spots that vitamin D along with parathyroid gland help in the mobilization of calcium from the bone. It means that it detaches the calcium from the bones. So this concept should be clear, that it mineralizes the bone and deposits the calcium and phosphate in the bone when the calcium and phosphate level are higher in the bone, are higher in the blood plasma. Then when the calcium and phosphate levels are higher in the blood plasma, then the calcitriol and the calcitriol will help in mineralization of the bone. But when the calcium and phosphate levels are lower in the blood plasma from the normal level, then they will help in the mobilization of calcium from the bone. And so that was about the regulation and biological functions of the vitamin D. After this we will study about that how much normal quantity of vitamin D is recommended on daily basis, and what are the effects of the deficiency and hypervitaminosis of vitamin D. Okay, so what is the normal RDA level of vitamin D to consume daily? RDA means recommended dietary allowance of vitamin D, that how much vitamin D is recommended on daily basis to be consumed. So the recommended dietary allowance of vitamin D is 400 IU. IU means international units. 400 IU equals 10 milligrams per 10 milligrams of cholecalciferol. But in countries where sunlight is more than normal, countries like Pakistan, India, and most of the Arab countries where sunshine is a little bit more, Then the RDA level should be reduced to 5 milligrams. RDA level should be reduced to 5 milligrams of cholecalciferol. The major sources of vitamin D are fatty fish, fish liver oil, egg yolk, and sunlight. The white skin produces 5 times more vitamin D than the black skin, containing a high level of melanin compounds. The black skin contains melanin compounds, due to which it produces 5 times less vitamin than the vitamin D than the white skin. So this was the normal RDA level which was recommended for the dietary allowance of vitamin D. Increasing from this RDA, you will suffer hypervitaminosis, while decreasing your RDA from this level, you will be suffering from the deficiency effects of vitamin D. So now we will discuss the pathological conditions that occur due to the disturbance in the RDA level of vitamin D, the deficiency effects and the hypervitaminosis effects of vitamin D. Okay, so now we will be talking about the pathological conditions that are caused due to the deficiency or hypervitaminosis of vitamin D. So let's start with the very basic, that due to the deficiency of vitamin D, the pathological conditions that are caused due to the deficiency of vitamin D. These include the rickets, osteomalacia, and renal rickets. The ricket is the difference between rickets and osteomalacia is that in rickets the bones tend to bend. The bone are demineralized in both conditions, osteomalacia and rickets, but ricket occurs in children while osteomalacia occur in adults. And in rickets the bone tend to bend, and in osteomalacia the bone does not bend, it rather fracture on minute force. These are the causes of rickets, osteomalacia, and renal rickets. Low exposure to sunlight causes rickets, osteomalacia, and renal rickets. Usually in rickets, osteomalacia, and renal rickets, these all conditions occur due to the deficiency of calcium. And as you know that vitamin D is necessary for the absorption of calcium, so when you do not expose your skin to sunlight frequently, then your body will not synthesize vitamin D, and ultimately your body will not absorb calcium in proper amount. Then these conditions also develop in people who are strictly vegetarians. Then people who are affected from chronic kidney failure, these conditions also develop in them. Chronic kidney failure is caused when both of your kidneys fail to work. Then liver disease and alcoholic cirrhosis is also a cause of rickets, osteomalacia, and renal rickets. And fat malabsorption. As you know that vitamin D is a fat soluble vitamin, so when you have a defect in the biliary tract, it means that when your bile is not secreted well, then your vitamin D will not be absorbed well, as bile helps in the absorption and metabolism of fat and fat soluble compounds. So vitamin D is also a fat soluble compound, fat soluble vitamin. So when you have a defect in your biliary system or you have fat malabsorption, then you will also develop these conditions. In these two conditions, the chronic kidney failure and liver diseases, the enzymes that are necessary for the biosynthesis of vitamin D are not present. Due to the fact that vitamin D acts against rickets, that's why vitamin D is also known as anti-rickety vitamin. Now we come to the hypervitaminosis of vitamin D. Hypervitaminosis of vitamin D is caused when the level of vitamin D is elevated from the normal value. So more calcium will be present in your plasma, that will cause hypercalcemia, and this hypercalcemia will lead to the deposition of calcium in kidneys and arteries. So this person will suffer from the people suffering from these conditions having loss of appetite, nausea, increased thirst, and these people usually have developed stones in their kidneys and gallbladder, and these people also suffer from abdominal groans as calcium help in contraction of muscles. So these people have an abnormal abdominal contraction, that is abdominal groan, and also these people suffer from psychological depressions. What happens that this is a neuron, and the extra calcium surrounds the sodium channel. Here it is the sodium channel. So this sodium which is a positive atom, it cannot enters into the interior of this neuron. So due to more calcium surrounding the sodium channel, this sodium is reflected away. So that was all about the pathological conditions of vitamin D.